Beloveds, it is so restorative to hear this much music in church. It really is. It really is. I'm going to add to it. I've been waking up every morning with these words, singing already in my spirit. No one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. No one is getting left behind this time. We get there together or never get there at all. We get there together or never get there at all. Tens of thousands bore witness in the streets, unbowed by temperatures that were a disrespectful 20 degrees below zero before the wind chill. Policymakers, grocery shoppers, those who daily walk groups of children to school because their parents no longer can, mutual aid donors, shelter providers, ICE observers, and more. All holding strong together, all centering their neighbors in an outpouring of love that has gone on for months. Resolute, hopeful, adamant that the attacks of federal agents against the everyday people of this nation will never happen in secrecy or in silence. A living sanctuary of love that must be seen to be understood. Y'all, I thought I knew. Many of you likely know by now that 2 weeks ago, interfaith organizers in the Twin Cities put out a national call, right? A national call for clergy to show up, bear witness, and learn about the methods our beloveds in Minnesota are using to keep one another, keep their families and their neighbors safe. We came by the hundreds. We were told they thought maybe 50 of us might arrive. There were so many of us they had to shut down registration because they ran out of space. We came by the hundreds and have continued, I hear now, by the thousands to join in the spiritual care and prophetic witness against the resurgence of some of the most heinous crimes in this nation's history. What was incredible to me was the amount of care that was offered to those of us who came. Remember with me that all of the leaders, all of them who spent time with us, were taking time away from the communal care that is so vital right now. They paused their life-saving work to teach us their strategies, to share agonizingly real information on what the day-to-day experience has been like. We were blessed with an entire day of training, resources, witness, and more. And most of us returned home with whistles in hand and determined spirits. Why did they do this? Exhausted as I know they are. They said they do this because they want every other community to benefit from what they've learned. Right? They want us to be ready, to be strategic, to be already organized and deeply connected to each other when ICE comes or returns to our communities. Beloveds, the feeling of marching in sub-zero conditions the following day with more than 50,000 other determined people of conscience is indescribable. Feeling the presence, the determination of so many turned what for me has been little flickers into a beacon of hope that felt unstoppable. This is where it gets hard. Sadly, we know what the forces of tyranny and authoritarianism do when people dare to resist, to reclaim their hopefulness. Right? Many of us were already traveling home when we learned of yet another ICE observer killed the following day. Loves, it was the 9th such tragedy in 2026 alone. The 9th. The 7 names we don't easily know are all people of color. So what do we hold on to in the face of this kind of evil? How does the refuge, the sanctuary we are offered, call us forward? And how might we do our part to ensure that the same sanctuary includes everyone? And I want to invite you to engage the following text with whatever language best suits your faithful values and all that calls you into being. The psalmist writes, "When those who are humble cry out, God hears them. God rescues them from all that crushes their spirit. God is near to the brokenhearted and loves those whose hearts are open and contrite. Many are the struggles of those who seek to walk in love. But God delivers them through every trial and guards their whole being. Not one part of them will be abandoned. Though evil may wound for a time, love restores those who trust in God. God redeems those who rest in divine mercy, and none who take refuge in that love will be lost." This is a modern recasting of Psalm 34, lines 17 to 23, found in a contemplative outreach newsletter from November 2025, just months ago. You may be able to tell from the title of this morning's sermon that I've been touched by the Psalms lately. And what I love about these texts is that they are the songs, literally the songs, the recorded words of the people's prayers, passed down through oral history in Jewish community over centuries and written into Hebrew scripture over time. The Psalms to me are like hearing the breath of our religious ancestors and connecting our prayers, our hopes, our commitments, and our love to theirs. Our liberal Christian roots as UUs often draw on the faithful lives of our Jewish kin, connecting one living tradition to another across time. But for me, it is the idea of taking refuge, finding sanctuary in the love that lives at the center of our tradition. That is something that abides, just as it asks so very much of us. Now, we are, of course, a pluralistic, non-creedal faith, and I know that the poetry of what we mean by words like God is wide-ranging in our tradition. I am not asking you to adopt a traditional liberal Christian theology this morning. But I am inviting us to reclaim, in these incredibly difficult days, a knowing that is part of our theological inheritance. This psalm reminds me that so many of us want to be guided by the teachings of love in our daily living. Are you feeling convicted by love in these days and hearing that call? Right, we're showing up open-hearted for our neighbors. We're protecting each other's children and offering our resources and our time to help one another face the unimaginable. When the events that surround us seem too difficult to bear, we look for something larger than our individual selves that we can lean on, right, in times of need. And we find that something larger often in places like this, in our UU congregations, where we can hold close to that which shelters and uplifts us. And while many of us do not rely on the idea of a God that prevents all troubles, right, or promises that we will never be harmed, that's not the life that we're living. We do come together in community and trust that there is a healing that comes from our connections to each other, and we know ourselves called to do all that we can to ensure that none are lost in these days. Instead, we might say to one another, "You are a miracle in motion. I greet you with wonder." I'll come back to what it means to be lost in these days in a moment. I want to tell you that this text is traditionally understood to be a declaration of faith in difficult times, right? A holding fast to our values in the face of all that is hard. To me, it's also a call for justice and a reminder that without our dedicated and loving communities and congregations, that the impact of the force of love in this world would be greatly diminished. Beloveds, we are the mechanism, the hands and feet, if you will, of a love larger than what we can fully understand. I've seen this truth echoed back to me over and over again in recent weeks, and it's something that I've long known about our living tradition, but witnessing it lately in real time has changed me. Now, we aren't talking much about this publicly because it's really not about us at the end of the day, and we were in Minneapolis to witness, to learn. But I'm also carrying in my heart the truth that a full third of the clergy who answered that first national call were UUs. Right. as one of our conveners for a direct action in Washington, D.C. last week proclaimed during our press conference, and I quote, "UU's really showed out in Minneapolis." Right, the sanctuary that we met in for training, for singing, prayer, and preparation was this beautiful, beautiful kaleidoscope of faith traditions, cultures, backgrounds, and communities. I wish you had heard "No One Is Getting Left Behind" in the voices of 650 faith leaders. Then later that night, UU's decided to gather together at the First Universalist Church of Minneapolis, who put on a dinner for 210, at least, of us with 2 days' notice. And we were just everywhere. We were everywhere, more than 200 of us, holding on to one another, checking on the hearts and spirits of our beloveds ministering in occupied territory, strategizing on how to bring all they were teaching us back to the people we are privileged to serve. I know the language of occupied territory sounds strong. It is the reality that we witnessed. I don't want to tell you a lot of hard stories this morning, but I will tell you that one of our trainers showed up late because she was bringing breast milk for a 3-month-old baby who was left behind in a home when her parents were kidnapped by ICE. And that's chilling, but what is more chilling is that our beloveds reminded us that this is every day, that this was not an unusual experience. So we came home carrying new protest songs in our spirits. We returned to our own communities filled with stories of vigilant resistance and the reminder that it takes multiple years to topple tyranny, right? That this is a stamina reality, not a values check. Multiple years, and that we are the ones who keep each other on the path of a faithful no. No, not my neighbors. No, not the corruption of my values. No, not the children. No, not the erasure of democracy. Just no, not in my name. We are preparing to say no for the long haul. Now, this is not a UU story. It's not. It's a Twin Cities story, a Minnesota story. It's also a Los Angeles story, a Chicago story, a New Orleans story, a Howard County, Maryland story, where organizers just this week succeeded in pressuring officials to revoke a building permit for a new ICE detention center in our state. And yet here is why I appreciate the immovability, the strength, the hardness of Sanctuary from the Wonder Box this morning, because now that struggle has moved just days later to Hagerstown, Maryland, right? And I have every faith, though, that our communities will bring the pressure there as well. This is stamina, value-based, sheltering, sanctuary work. This is how we are showing up for communal care. It's how we are ministering to one another, how we're loving our neighbors. This is what it means to reach beyond the walls of our individual communities and bring the power of our faith as a whole to the streets. We literally cannot do this work without you. Everything that you do in this vital, growing congregation holds the community in impossible times and lends the strength required to show up and meet the wide-ranging needs of this moment. Right, our colleague, the Reverend Ashley Horan, who serves as Vice President of Programs and Ministries for the UUA, lives 1 block from where Renee Good was killed. She keeps telling us that she does not know a single person in the Twin Cities who isn't doing something. No one who is doing nothing. I want to invite you this morning to hold what you know about what you are doing in these days. Don't let anyone tell you that your contributions are unimportant. What they're saying about the work in the Twin Cities is that it is leader-full. There is no one charismatic leader. Everyone is doing their piece, showing up in their ways, training others, caring for children, feeding each other, following ICE in their cars. My God, everyone is doing something. I invite you to own the thing that you are doing and to do it for the long haul. I know this is something that presidents are supposed to say, right? I'm supposed to show up and tell you how good you are and say nice things, which are true. I actually don't know how to adequately express to you how proud I am of UUs right now, how grateful I am for this faith tradition. From where I sit, I get to witness this sea of Side with Love yellow everywhere, that there is hurt or harm or struggle. I've never believed more in the truth that we are the people who show up. Did you see patches and swaths of yellow in all the photos you've been seeing lately? We're the people who have each other's backs as we work to support our surrounding communities. We amplify the power of love to drive hatred and injustice from the world, and it is a privilege beyond naming to be part of the steady foundation that allows us to work together across the vital force for change that is our UU movement. So I want to tell you that your Unitarian Universalist Association focuses its mission on three things. Right? And I don't expect you to remember these three things. My hope is that you will see them and recognize them without the words. Right? We equip congregations for healthy and vital ministries. We support and train lay and professional leaders, and we advance UU values in the world. Have you been seeing these things lately? Yes. Congregations, religious professionals, values. We often talk about our shared ministry at the UUA as being the embodiment of this freely chosen covenant that holds our congregations and our communities together. And we're also a primary way that UUs fulfill the promises we make to each other, promises that I know are larger than any one congregation can hold. So how might we together live into a promise that none who take refuge in love shall be lost? Our UU faith teaches me that there is always a pathway back into community, that there is no distance from our commonly shared values that is so far as to prevent a return to wholeness, even, and we do, when we need to hold our boundaries in our communities for safety. Right? UUs teach that no one can ever be fully erased from the human family. We teach that there is always grace and that it does not have to be earned. Right? Now, that does not mean that there's no accountability. It simply means there is always a pathway back, even if that journey is solely the work of one person and their honest accountability to all that calls them into being. For me, this means two very important things. The first is that even as divided a nation as we are today, there remains hope that we can find our way back together into a people who seek to build a democratic nation rather than destroy one another in the name of power and control. The work is not easy. It's not swift. This is still about stamina, but I believe it is possible, and that possibility grounds me in my faith and in my actions. The second thing is that each of us has the ability to find our right place in the movement and in this moment, and that we can lean on one another to sustain ourselves in responding to all that threatens our loved ones, our neighbors, and our communities. Our congregations matter so much in these days, beloveds. Again, I think beyond what we can truly understand. They matter because they are vessels for everything that we know about love, and they hold us when our spirits are weary and we need reminding. The shared values that we hold together as UUs offer us two primary teachings on love, and they live in the space right here between me and the pulpit and the sanctuary and all of you wonderful people online. Right? Our shared values proclaim that the Unitarian Universalist Association, your UUA, will actively engage its members in transforming the world through liberating love. They also insist that love is the power that holds us together, is at the center of our shared values, and that we are accountable to each other for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Are you finding new ways to ground yourself in love in these days? Do you find them here in this community? Our congregations are vessels of love, and they are more important than ever before. So what does that look like? I imagine maybe more of you know that I was arrested last week for protesting the continued funding of ICE, thank you, and the Department of Homeland Security at the US Capitol. My mother found out on Facebook. Don't do that. Don't do that. But part of that planned arrest experience for me was the absolute certainty that UUs would be there with me. Honestly, I didn't even ask. I was so tired from Minneapolis that I just went to where I was asked to be. Now, there were staff there, of course, from the UUA. We take my security seriously. There was yet again this sea of UUs, clusters of Side with Love Yellow. We were at the interfaith prayer service and the press conference. There were UUs surrounding that rotunda in the Hart building, bearing witness, and about 6 of us total in holding during the group arrest. This includes Nicole Bruno. Yes. Let me tell you, if you are going to be trapped in a freezing cold warehouse for 8 hours and you want an entertaining, laughter-filled experience, bring Nicole with you. Beloveds, what we do together in covenant, in our congregations and communities really matters. What we do in service of our liberal and liberating tradition can change the world. I brought my ministry to the UUA because I believe fiercely in our congregations, and I want to do everything in my power to resource and equip the life-saving ministries that we share and embark on together. I find part of what that means today in the words of one of our graduating UU seminarians, Karishma Gottfried, who wrote this beautiful invocation on the depth of love that I believe characterizes our living, our everyday lives as UUs. She says each of us was created in the image of love. Wherever we come from, wherever we're going, whoever we are, whomever we love, we proclaim with love on our side. Our bodies are sacred. Our minds are blessed. Our spirits are beloved. May we be open to receive more love, always more love. Always more love, beloveds. This is my prayer for you and for us, that we will know ourselves whole, no matter the circumstances of our living. And through that knowing that we will love fiercely and consistently and long enough to set everyone free. Free. Our faith may not promise that in our lifetimes, but it also promises nothing less. It promises that we will never be alone on that journey. It's my privilege to be on that pathway with all of you. May there always be more love. May ours be the spirits that call that love into being. May each of us find our place in the moment and this movement for liberation. May our love shelter our neighbors, protect our loved ones, and our neighbors' families. My thanks and gratitude for every drop of love that you put into this world. Thank you. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be.